G'day, I'm Mark from Mustard Bikes, and in the workshop today we have this 2023 CB750 Hornet. We're going to show you how to fit one of our tail tidies start to finish. Now this is also the same installation process for our CB500 and CBR500 from 2016 onwards, so the whole process is more or less identical. Before we get started though, we're going to need some tools. This install was filmed with an early release bike. As bike designs are updated and revamped over the years, some aspects of this installation may have changed. Please check our video description below to find out if there are any changes to the installation process shown here. To get the job done, you'll need a pair of side cutters or scissors, a 4mm and a 5mm Allen key, an 8mm and a 10mm spanner, a Phillips head screwdriver, and a large flat blade, preferably blunt screwdriver. Some WD-40 or similar lubrication will also make your life a lot easier. In the box, you'll find the card that led you to this video, a small pack with a number of nuts and bolts, a link wire, and some spacers in it. And then wrapped in paper, you'll find the kit itself. So the kit consists of the mounting arms and the faceplate with the LED bolt already fitted. The bolt pack consists of 3 cable ties, the link wire which makes your product plug and play, these 2 indicator spacers. If you've purchased the aftermarket version of this product, these aren't included. And then in all these nuts and bolts, you'll find 4 M6x20 bolts, 6 nylock nuts, and 2 M6x16 countersunk bolts. Now we have everything together to get the process done. We're going to start by removing the pillion seat using the key. On the CB750, pull the control unit underneath the seat out of the way. Located just behind the tail light, you'll find a sheath that encases all the wiring to the rear fender. Disconnect the white, the blue and the orange connectors. So we can now use our 5mm Allen key to remove the 4 bolts holding on the stock fender. Now as you remove that last bolt, just be sure to hold on to the fender. Then with the bolt removed, slide the fender down and forwards, and like that we've got it removed from the bike. So we can now take this fender over to the bench and get the tail tidy prepared ready for installation. Now if you're fitting the stock indicators, we're going to have to remove those from the stock fender. If you're not fitting the stock indicators, you can skip the next few steps. So the first thing is to take our Phillips head screwdriver, and we're going to remove this screw on the top here. As well as the screw on the bottom here. With the screws removed, we can pull the cover back and pop it out of place. We can now flip the unit back over and remove the following 5 bolts using our 5mm Allen key. Once again turning the unit over, we can now pull all this wiring through and remove the steel frame from the rest of the fender. We now have access to the back of the indicators. On the earlier models, these bolts may be a Phillips head screw, but in the case of the 750, we're going to use our 8mm spanner to remove the bolt on the back. So completely remove the bolt, and then you'll see behind the indicator here, there is a metal spacer. So you're just going to pull that metal spacer out, like such. And that will then allow us to remove the indicator. Now it's just important while we're here to note that this orange one is on the left-hand side of the bike. That's going to be important when we reassemble the tail tidy. So then lastly, we've got this rubber grommet. We're just going to pull that one out. like such. And then of course, we do the same to the other side. So our next step is to fit the indicators to the tail tidy. Obviously we're going to need the tail tidy itself. We're also going to need these two oval spaces. And then also with these rubber mounts, you'll notice that they have a little cutout on the bottom here. When you fit these to the tail tidy, they need to be facing downwards. Now, this is a very tricky process, so take your time. This is also where the WD-40 comes in, as well as our flat blade screwdriver. So what we're going to do, so I'm just going to take this rag here, take the spacer, and we're going to spray that down with some WD-40. Just quickly dab the excess off. Then we're going to take that spacer, we're going to start at 90 degrees, and then turn that spacer around. As you see, this is a very tricky process. I'm trying to get as much of this rubber through as we can before we go to the flat blade screwdriver, which we're then going to use just to push that last little bit through. So just be careful not to stab your fingers here. So that's got that spacer through. And so then again, we mentioned that little cutout, that goes towards the bottom. So like such. And then we're basically going to do the same thing. So we're going to take this indicator mount, we're just going to spray it down with a little bit of WD-40, particularly on the insides here. Just get rid of the excess. Be careful not to wipe it all away. And then again, we're going to start with this wider end first, coming up like so, 90 degrees, getting as much of it through as we can, and then turning it over and using that screwdriver just to get that last bit through. There we go, that's in. So once again, when you're doing this, be very careful not to stab yourself. Of course, we then repeat that process on the other side. We'll wipe off that excess WD-40 there. So, same process. So next we can fit these indicators themselves. Again, that orange one is going to go to the left side of the tail tidy. So we're going to feed this through the back hole here. Feed that all the way through until that indicator lines up. And then on the back side, we can take that keeper plate, pop that through here and sit that one in place. And then lastly, we're going to take that bolt, feed that bolt through and do the bolt up. And then of course, we repeat the process on the opposite side. With the indicators fitted, we can fit the mounting arms to the faceplate of the tail tidy. To do that, we're going to need our two countersunk bolts and our two Phillips heads. So we're simply going to lay this up behind the faceplate here, fit one of these countersunk bolts, and then the nylock nut on the back. And then use our 10mm spanner and our Phillips head screwdriver to do those up. Now the last step we need to do before we can fit this to the bike is to tidy up all this wiring. So we're just going to unravel this LED bolt here. We're going to feed these two indicator wires through here as well. So then with those wires through the top, we're going to take a cable tie, and you'll see on the side arms there's a little notch here. That's to hold the cable tie in place. So you're just going to take one of these indicator wires as well as this number plate light. You're going to run the cable tie through the hole on the side of the arm here, capture those wires, and then do that cable tie up. Now, as we do it up, we're just going to make sure the wiring is sitting how we'd like it to, and then hide it behind that arm, do that cable tie all the way up. We use our side cutters to trim the cable tie, and then we're going to do the same with the indicator wire on the other side. So these wires then all come through a hole in the bike over here. So now that we've done that, this is then ready to fit to the bike. So now we're back over at the bike. We're just going to rest the tail tidy on the seat and then feed the wiring through this rectangle hole at the back of the bike. So with those wires started, we're then going to take one of the 20mm bolts and one of the nylock nuts. We're just going to run that 20mm bolt through one of the mounting holes. We're just going to put that nut on the seat, and then we're going to pull all these wires all the way through. And then we're going to sit the tail tidy in place with the tabs at the back located, lift it up, and then fit that nut onto the one bolt that we have sitting here. We can then fit the remaining 3 bolts and nuts, and then tighten all 4 using our 10mm spanner or socket and our 4mm Allen key. The next step is to connect the link wire to the LED bolt, matching the red wire to the red wire and the black wire to the green wire. We can then fit the link wire to the white connector, the blue connector to the blue connector, and the orange connector to the orange connector. Now that the wiring's been reconnected, before we go any further with the install, we're just going to take a moment to do a quick safety check. We're going to take our key, turn on the ignition. Then we're just going to check that the number plate light's working, and then check that the indicators are working on the correct sides. I also like to check the brake while we're here, just in case. Now, if your indicators are on the wrong sides, it's as simple as swapping over the orange and the blue connectors. If your LED bolt hasn't lit up, try swapping the 2 wires on that link wire, and that may solve your problem. Let's finish up. From behind the bike, check the alignment of the plate mount. If it needs adjusting, slightly undo the bolts, realign, and then retighten. Underneath the pillion seat, tidy up the remaining wiring, and on the 750, refit the control module. The final step, refit your pillion seat, fit your number plate, and it's time to go for a ride. Now, it's a wise idea after you have been for a few rides, go over everything, check that all the nuts and bolts are still tight and that all your lights are operating correctly. So hopefully this video has helped you with your install and you've managed to get it done trouble-free. If you haven't yet purchased this product and you'd like to, come visit us at mustardbikes.com. We have a whole range of tail tidies for a whole range of different bikes. Don't forget to get in touch with us on Instagram and Facebook. We love hearing from our customers. We love seeing your pictures. If you can like and share this video, it really helps with the algorithm. Once again, thanks for watching and catch you next time. How am I going to say this? No. WD-40, the lube for all purposes, except maybe the bathroom or bedroom. You do you, Matt. Cool, we can move on from here. Remember to put that in. Not the first bit.